What if I was to tell you that you could get unspeakably rich just by investing in this NFT? Hello everybody, and I hope you are doing well. Now, as you will have guessed from the beginning of this video, I am talking about NFTs. That is a non-fungible token, a piece of code on a blockchain which you could use to prove ownership. It essentially shows that you own something else that is a digital good. It might not necessarily be a digital good because you'd use it to point to a smart contract that shows that you own copyright in something that's physical or just physical generally. I did a video on it. You should watch it if you're not familiar with NFTs at all. It also shows off my record collection if you're excited about that. And I was very, very, very excited. I was excited because I saw how it could revolutionize smart contracts. It would make it easier to prove title on property sales. It would also essentially give us a way, if an artist creates digital art, they could create revenue from that, generating revenue every time that the NFT in that artwork is essentially sold. You can have money coming back into your Ethereum account, well, Ethereum coming back into your Ethereum account on every sale via OpenSea or wherever. And I was excited. I also saw a future for digital trading cards, which are now available as NFTs and are very excited. But I feel it's all gone a little bit wrong. Now, if you've read the news this week or last week or any week, I dare say when you're watching this, if it's reasonably soon after I've posted it, this could be the news anytime. NFTs have become a bit shady. You have CryptoPunks minting NFTs, using digital artwork, creating an NFT, creating a non-fungible token, selling it on, inflating the price, and people making lots and lots of money on things that they don't necessarily own. We've already seen NFTs of essentially copyrighted works. They seem to be widespread. And as a lawyer, we're doing more and more work in that area in terms of making sure that those are taken down, that the rights holder essentially gets either some money back or gets rid of the image. But it's hard to track down, as anything is that's happening on the blockchain, because it's still very much a new technology when it comes to things like enforcement of law. So where did it all go wrong? Well, I feel that NFTs are not necessarily being used for what they should be used for. I saw as NFT as a great tool, a great way to essentially prove ownership, a great way to use the blockchain in a way that I always thought it would be used. I always thought that it would be a way to essentially prove ownership, a way to never, essentially it's a smart ledger. It's a way that you can't interfere with a ledger and would prevent fraud. Instead, it seems that NFTs are being used for fraud and potentially even for money laundering, because people are minting NFTs, basically inflating the price by selling them to themselves. If you look at some of the sales on OpenSea, it looks all very, very suspicious, and people are investing with them. So they've gone from a great way, a token to show ownership, to a way to essentially create a new digital asset and become rich. And that is the problem. People think they can become rich. I've already mentioned on a previous video, we have trams doing the rounds here in Hong Kong that try and convince people to invest in NFTs. We see billboard ads with people trying to convince them to invest in NFTs. And the key word is invest. People are seeing it in the same way that we saw cryptocurrency years ago, saying, invest in this now, you will become rich. Look at the incredible returns you will have. Now, that intrinsically itself isn't a problem. I mean, it's a bit of a problem if people start losing money, but if you want to use NFT as an investment platform, then so be it. I do feel like it takes away from the way they should be used. But there is a problem legally, because think what's happened in terms of cryptocurrency. As people have seen it gain traction, they've seen it not necessarily just as another way, an alternative to fiat currency, but they've seen it as an investment tool. I'll be perfectly blunt, I feel like Bitcoin, Ethereum, so many of the cryptocurrencies are just used by investors and people are trading them rather than using them as a currency. I think I've mentioned that before. NFTs seem to be exactly the same thing. People aren't creating digital goods, digital NFTs, artwork NFTs, anything that's an NFT necessarily in a way to improve people's quality of life. They seem to be doing it purely to make money. And this isn't people like artists who are trying to make money from using their art as NFTs and seeing it as a revenue stream. It's not being used as a way to show ownership of something else. It's just, we will create an NFT, which is a picture of a cat with a smiley face. You will pay money for it because you might think it's worth a lot. More and more people are investing in it because of fear of missing out. That's where they think, if I don't get in now, I won't make the millions that everyone else is making, and then I'll lose out. And then, of course, people are losing money. Now, you may be thinking, Paul, what is your issue with that? What is the problem? If people want to waste their money, so be it. What's the issue? Well, my issue is that because of this, NFTs will eventually be regulated. I would say, in the state they're in at the moment, they feel like a bit like initial coin offerings or ICOs, and they will become subject to the eyes of the regulator. They will be seen as securities. They'll be seen as something that where essentially whichever whether it's the SFC in Hong Kong or whichever securities agency, whichever regulator you have in your jurisdiction looks at it, they will think, well, hang on, we need to now regulate NFT sales. We may need to even regulate how NFTs are created in our jurisdiction. If that happens, some jurisdictions, just as China's essentially banned cryptocurrency, and it seems like Russia might do the same, who knows? But the same as China's banned cryptocurrency, you may say NFTs being banned in jurisdictions around the world, and then the technology, the innovation behind it is completely wasted, and wasted because people are just seeing it as a way to make a fast buck. Now that annoys me. It annoys me greatly. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. Legally, something will be done about it, but I think it will hamper the market, which will be a tragedy in my view. And my view of having cool collectible NFTs, which were like trading cards, which might have some value, but weren't costing millions and millions of dollars. I know that some trading cards do cost millions and millions of dollars, but there we go. Or my view as NFTs being seen as a way to enable smart contracts, that would be hamstrung as well. So it's a worry. Now, who do I blame for this? Partly I blame people who want to make a fast buck, fine, but you know, it's quite hard to make money these days given what's happening in the world with COVID, so be it. But I also, to a certain extent, blame the metaverse. Now, I've talked about the metaverse before, and again, I've done a video on this, and watch that if you want more detail. We don't know whose metaverse will be dominant. It will probably be the one that Meta is creating. How fitting. I know that Facebook, Meta are investing a massive amount of money in trying to make their version of the metaverse be the dominant form. But you know, it's cool. I like the idea of being able to talk to people around the world, put on a virtual headset, explore virtual worlds, own virtual assets, and have a fantastic time doing it. You could meet your business partner without any fear of catching COVID or having to get a plane and destroying the environment purely by doing it in the metaverse. And that's exciting. What isn't exciting perhaps is the way that all your data will be used for advertising, but frankly at this point I think we're all over that. We kind of realise that any service we use, if it's free or not, but certainly if it's free, is probably making money of us. We are the product. What I don't like, however, is now the monetization of the metaverse as well. Buy a house in the metaverse. You can spend millions of dollars. Somebody spent an absolute fortune just for a house in the metaverse next to Snoop Dogg's house in the metaverse. I wouldn't necessarily want to live next to Snoop Dogg in real life. I mean, he's a cool guy, but I imagine he has pretty loud parties. In the metaverse, though, you're not owning anything. You're paying as much money for you could buy a real house for it, that you're paying for something that has no tangible benefit. It's just an asset. It becomes, once again, much as I said would happen with NFTs just a few seconds ago, it becomes very much, again, just something like a security or a derivative or an investment product. And there we go. This is the problem I think we've got now with all of these new technologies, whether it's going all the way back to cryptocurrency, but certainly we're seeing it with NFTs, and now we're seeing it with the metaverse, is that it's seen purely as a very, I suppose, a very cynical way to make money rather than the exciting world of new technology it could be. And again, as I said, the law will clamp down, the regulators will clamp down, and you will find it becomes very hard to buy or sell anything, and it will ruin the original vision of tech. Think how cool the internet was at the beginning. If you were there, if you were sort of a child of the late 80s, early 90s, particularly the early 90s, you thought, isn't it amazing that I could communicate with people across the world without a large phone bill and share information? I used it to get people's addresses and create webs where we'd send mixtapes of music, and I still have that music. But then later on it felt like the internet became a very, very cynical place, and certainly now, if you read anything on Twitter, you read the comments on YouTube, or just generally take part in any discussion on the internet, it soon devolves into shouting at each other. It feels a little bit like it's been ruined, but it feels like now we're going to ruin the potential of both NFTs and the metaverse. So I suppose this is a bit of a plea, not that the people who are necessarily spending loads of money to make loads of money unless you're going to be hearing this. Think of the ways that it could be used to actually improve people's lives. Think of the practical uses of NFTs. Think of the practical uses of the metaverse. Don't just see it as a new way you can show off, look at me in my fancy virtual Lamborghini and how cool I am and how rich I am. Don't just be one of the rich kids of Instagram just in a virtual setting, but think of how it could actually make a difference. Otherwise, as I said, the law, the regulators, the general public even may intervene, and either you'll find it harder to actually create and use NFTs, you may find the metaverse heavily regulated, or you will just find the whole thing switched off and ruining it for everyone. So I hope that's interesting. As you can probably guess, I'm at home. I'm in my study today because I thought a change of scenery would be good and I wouldn't be showing off all my records, and will be for the foreseeable future. So for me, having meetings in the metaverse would be great. Certainly I've been playing more video games on the evenings because there's not much else to do. So I'm kind of existing in the metaverse in Cyberpunk 2077. Not necessarily a place I want to live in real life, but I'm not having to pay any more than the cost of the game to actually be there, or indeed own a virtual apartment or drive my virtual car. Certainly I'm not used buying NFTs or doing that. But do be careful. Don't get swept up by the excitement of how NFTs and the metaverse works without thinking what the legal consequence is, or how essentially people may try and con them. Don't just go and buy an NFT because you think you're going to be very, very rich. And if you really want to, then maybe I've got a few NFTs I can sell you. That's it for the moment. Take care and see you soon.